This is one of a series of 4 deepening films taken from informal talks given by Hand of the Corps' Abu'l-Qasim Faizi during his visit to the United States in July 1974. Hand of the Corps' Faizi accepted the Baha'i faith while attending a school operated by Baha'is in Tehran. After college, he taught school in a small village in western Iran and later taught the faith as a pioneer in Arabia. When the beloved guardian was asked how best to teach the Baha'i faith, he is quoted as saying, "Look to Faizi for an example." So it is little wonder that Mr. Faizi devoted much of the time in his informal talks to the subject of spiritual education of Baha'i children.
You should go now.
Today I would like to read some of the sentences of Baha'u'llah written about the aim and end of the Baha'i education, the ultimate purpose of it. He says, look at a candle. When you look at it, you are sure that there is light in this candle. The same thing is true with every human being. In that human temple, God has deposited many different lights of truth. Therefore, each individual should try to reveal those things. The candle needs somebody to ignite it. And when the candle is ignited, it's effulgent with the light. Education is the igniter of the candle of human beings. Education must be in such a way and must be undertaken with such disciplinary course that gradually all the lights will come out and will manifest the reality of each individual. God has created every individual in the most perfect way. And because of this perfection of creation, man should try to reach this perfection. Each person is responsible in himself to educate himself and to recognize God the Creator. Had it not been for this perfection of creation, God never expected that man should recognize. Because he has given us all means by which we'll recognize God, therefore he expects us to recognize him and to follow the plan that he has given us. Educate your children in such a way that the mere commitment of a certain sin will become the greatest punishment for an individual. Suppose he robs something. He has a gold coin robbed from a certain person. The mere possession of this which is stolen will become the greatest punishment for the person. By the Baha'i education, the power of comprehension of the children will become more. Their feelings will make progress. Their character will be reset and their thoughts will be reoriented. And then he says, because of these great spiritual gifts of God, the children who are educated in this path, they will learn in 1 month what the others learn in 12 months. That means the capacity of reception, understanding, and absorbing the highest meanings of life in these children will become 12 times more than others. Now, in these days, when the environment in which we live is utterly frozen, I mean spiritually frozen, We must keep our children, we must keep our youth as well covered as possible. I have said this in many different places, and I would like to repeat it here. When I was in Finland, I was taken to a forest in the middle of the summer for a walk. Now I saw groups of pine trees with a red shining sign at a certain height. I asked my friend, what are these for? He said, when the winter comes, the snow will cover the land, the forest, mountains, everywhere, up to this height. And our children must go to schools on ledges. And if there are not these red marks on the trees, they'll be lost on their path to school. After hearing this, immediately this thought occupied my mind. And I said, the environment in which the Baha'is live is frozen with this snow of immorality, lack of any standard. There is no standard in the lives of the people who are living in the whole world today. Go around the world, watch the people, ask them, and you will find there is no goal, no standard, and no aim. It's absolutely frozen, and we let our children go out of our houses uncovered, or properly and beautifully prepared for that environment. We must prepare them spiritually for this season, the season when man has lost his God and is immersed in the snow of selfishness and waywardness. This is the time that they say we can do whatever we like and we don't need a guiding line in our life. This is what we hear throughout the world. Now, to prepare the children for such an environment is the greatest task of every father and every mother. Baha'u'llah said, the spiritual education of the children is in the hands of their parents. And if the parents ignore, they will be asked by God, and this is one of the shortcomings which God will never forgive. Do we want to have an easy life here and be saddened when we are in front of our Lord? Of course not. By becoming a Baha'i, we would like to do whatever our Lord has destined for us, has planned for us. And he says the first part of education is divine education, existence of God, existence of religion, existence of a certain plan for humanity, and the goals of these plans, and the part that each child can play in this divine plan given to the whole of humanity by the exalted pen of Baha'u'llah. Should we neglect or ignore these great tasks given to us, Baha'u'llah says, I do not worry. I will create another generation, another race of man who will do it for me. But the great grace and bounty of God will be taken from you, present generation. As we were walking in the forest, I told my friend, this is the very picture of education. We want to find education and rules education about them in different books. But Baha'u'llah says, I have created the whole universe for your education, for your pleasure. Therefore, let's go to nature and study. The soil is the same here. The water is the same. The sunshine is the same. And yet, you see, some trees go straight up, approaching the sunshine. And next to it, the tree goes crooked. Don't you see in this the state of family? Some children will be straight in life, go well ahead of time towards Baha'u'llah, and others are turned and crooked in their life. They turn away from the light of Baha'u'llah. Find the reason and remove the reason. Find why are these children removed from the shadow of Baha'u'llah, and remove that difficulty and obstacle, and all of them will straight go to the sunlight. Is it the tempestuous winds of the ocean which makes them crooked? Is it some other reason? Is it thunder, lightning? Whatever it is, in our life, examine the situation of children and let them all grow in straight line towards the light of Baha'u'llah, under which they will become fruitful, under which they will reach the goal of life. The goal of life is to be prepared for the presence of God in the world to come, to be prepared to answer him, that we have followed your messenger. We have abided by his law. We have obeyed his instructions. And then we'll be rewarded to live eternally, growing in the world to come. Please study the lives of the early believers. In each one of them, you will find inspiration. Tell the stories of the early believers. When you have breakfast, when you have lunch, dinner, sitting together. Even if the children don't listen, repeat the story. The atmosphere will vibrate with the love of these illustrious people of the past who consecrated their lives and wealth for the propagation of the faith of Baha'u'llah. Let's never think of these things as vain imagining. They are serious. They are true. They are the new laws of God. These are the new openings given by Baha'u'llah so that we can see the world of souls. In Baha'i education, the first thing which is prescribed by the beloved guardian is to edify, to reorient the mind of the children. Reorient. What's the reason? Because in the school, in community, in the playgrounds, wherever they are, their minds are oriented towards something which is not good for them. Something which is detrimental to the life of the spirit and heart and faith. Therefore it says your first and foremost duty is to reorient the children. Second, to edify their mind. And third, to straighten their conduct. By telling them about the essential principles of the faith, their mind, their heart, and their thoughts will be reoriented. By reading the spiritual writings of the Quran, their souls will be edified. And by being constantly watchful of their behavior and correcting them at due time, their conduct will be straightened and it will be on the path, on the straight path of the faith of God. What is the definition of a child in the Baha'i faith? In the Baha'i faith, we believe, according to the writings of Baha'u'llah, that each child is a treasure house given to a family. This treasure house contains precious jewels deposited there by the hands of Creator. This is our first notion of a child. Now, what is the duty and function of the family, environment, and teachers? The function of all of these are, first, to explore into the nature of these children, to excavate these treasure houses, to find the jewels, discover the jewels. Second. Third, to polish these jewels. And fourth, let the whole of humanity benefit by these jewels which you have polished and discovered in the treasure house of God given to your own child. We must keep the house as Baha'i as possible. We must consider the house and the life of the family as a spiritual embryo for the children. These children will grow in this embryo of the family. If all factors work properly, in due time they will have spiritual birth. And if they do not work properly, they may be dead or living useless. It's very, very important. Under no circumstances we should ever pronounce a word against anybody. If we have anything against a person or against an institution, we need a little bit of courage to go to the assembly and say, I think this is wrong, what you are doing. And that's all. Not coming home and after that pick up the telephone and telephone everybody, I said this to the assembly. This again another backbiting which is done by the electric power. Broadcast more easier than one house. We must never do, because the new system of God, the new plan of God, the new world order of Allah should never be inflicted with these ideas of the past. Abdul-Baha received a letter from a father who complained against the conduct of his own son. Instead of correcting him, he wrote to Abdul-Baha. Abdul-Baha says, as Abdul-Baha is busy with his own faults, he never thinks of the faults of others. Find the same verse in the hidden words and you will know what it means. It says, the hidden word says, when you want to start backbiting, this desire comes. This burning desire, he calls it, comes. Start with yourself. Then it will be all right. I have seen, please don't think that I'm just telling you tablets. No, from my own experience. I have seen houses which were the center of all Baha'i activity. But because the family started backbiting, all the children are out of the cause. Not only that, most of them are enemies of the cause. They never mention the cause without cursing the cause. Therefore, why should we bring such disasters in our families because we enjoy talking about somebody drinking coffee or tea and just talking falsely about other individuals? By the example of Jesus Christ, by the example of Abdul-Baha, he says Jesus Christ was passing in a village. A group of people were gathered round a dead dog. Some said, how dirty is the wool of this dog? How crooked are the feet? How ugly are the claws of the dog? Jesus Christ came in and said, how white the teeth are. Abdul-Baha says, look at Jesus Christ, found one beautiful thing in a dead dog. About education of the children, I would like to repeat the exact words of Baha'u'llah and Abdul-Baha, repeated in many different tablets, that a child given to any family in the world, I mean not family in Europe, America, or Persia, no, everywhere in the world, wherever a child is born, in southern parts of Africa, in South America or the islands of the Pacific, that little child is a treasure house of God given to the family. They are the precious trusts of the family, and they must consecrate their love, their energy, and whatever they have to do three things towards this symbol of the grace of God to them. First of all, to explore this treasure house. By exploration means that we must try to find out what are the precious stones deposited by the hand of God in this precious child. After discovery, try to polish them. And after that, let the whole humanity benefit by them. These are the things repeated by Baha'u'llah and Abdul-Baha about a child given to a family. We can never explore the child, discover his talent, capacity, and God-given gift by force. We must do it by love. The love of the parents is like a torch in their hand, and in the darkness of that treasure house, you just probe into it and find the precious stone. And the greatest danger in the process of discovery, Abdul-Baha says, is beating the children. Please don't ask me about spanking. I know that all the American people are interested in spanking, and when we say, Abdul-Baha says, don't beat the children, they say, what about spanking? We must understand these things clearly and take them seriously, because we are concerned with the present generation of man. The present function of the present generation. We are dealing with this, not with history. He says, when you beat the child, the soul of the child may recoil within, and unfoldment may never take place. And if it takes place, it will be after many years, when the child has no more that joy and elasticity to accept any kind of education. He says, learn from the Arabs. In educating the horses, they will never beat the horses. And the Arabs say, if we beat the horse once, it will never be educated. And then Abdul-Baha says, is the child of man less than a horse? We must have patience with our children. We must be honored that we are given these treasure houses of God. We must spend our leisure time for them, bring them up in the plan of God, make them a part of the plan of God, just not to let them do whatever they like and give them the freedom which is the vogue of today. And if it has something wrong, which is really wrong, not petty things, he says, awaken the children to this situation. Suppose this is a vase of flowers and a child comes and purposely throws it down and the vase is broken. Suppose we give him 10 strokes. Will the vase be again all right? Never. The child is beaten, the vase is lost forever. At this moment, Abdul-Baha says, awaken the child. This is a very beautiful word to be used in education. Awaken the child to this situation. For example, say daddy goes and works the whole day, brings some money to the house for us. With that money we have purchased this, and you have broken it because of your stubbornness immediately. And once, twice, 3 times you say these things, or better things that you can think of, the child will be awakened. But he will never be awakened by being beaten. Any kind of education is important for father and mother. But mother has a special influence in the children, because there are three things which will determine the education of children. One is hereditary, second is environment, and third is family and school education. We call it one education. Now, in hereditary, the greatest powers, talents, capacities, and potentialities will be given by mother. You must consider the situations of families in different parts of the world. And when you study history, you will find out that many or majority of the people have been under the influence of their mother. I quote one thing from Baha'u'llah, then you will understand what I mean. You know, his half-brother, Yahya, almost tortured the soul of Baha'u'llah, so much so that Baha'u'llah left Baghdad for Sulaymaniyah and lived all alone, away from his family, away from Abdul-Baha, and it was very hard for him, very hard for the family. But because of the behavior of Yahya, his half-brother, he left Baghdad for Sulaymaniyah. In one of his tablets says, "I wish that I had not drunk from that pure milk." You see the secret here. Refers to his mother. Mother is the greatest factor in life. And once Abdul-Baha met, a visitor came to visit Abdul-Baha. Abdul-Baha told this visitor, "Your uncle was not as good as your father." They were two brothers. She immediately said, "Beloved master, my uncle was not from the same mother as my father." And the master looked at the greatest holy leaf and said, "Khanum, did you hear what she said? She said they were not from the same mother," referring to his own fate and his own churches received from the hands of Muhammad Ali. And there are, I hope I'll be able to bring some quotations about women that Abdul-Baha said. He even said that when you study the history of the world, you will come to understand that the greatest events of the world took place by the influence of a woman. I say these things not to frighten you against women, to love them more. Now, when we educate our children to become good Baha'is, we will ourselves will be first educated. This is the best way. It's reciprocated. For example, when we discuss education, one of the most important parts of the education of the children is that backbiting should never be committed in any house, because backbiting will kill the spiritual atmosphere of the house, will kill the spirit of the children, and they'll never become a good human being. It's something which has been proved by all the people who have observed different situations in different countries and different continents of the world. And when this is known by the parents, they will always try to keep the atmosphere as clean as possible, like changing the water for the fish every day to have fresh water. Therefore, always they want to have fresh air in the house for the dear children to grow up in a Baha'i atmosphere. And the rest we will discuss. One of the greatest mystic leaders of Persia received a visitor. And this visitor said, "Please, Master, pray for me that God will forgive me, because I have done something extremely wrong." He said, "What have you done?" He said, "I murdered somebody who was innocent." He said, "This is nothing. I thought you had committed backbiting." It's worse than killing.